We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
Good morning, Syndicate. Hope y'all are good and have a great day out there killing it. Happy to have my buddy Miles on with me today. You hear me, dude? We good?
Yeah, how's it going? Yep.
Man, all is good over here, dude. So I don't know if anybody in here knows Miles Veth. Y'all may or may not. I don't know. Him and I've been buddies for quite a few years now. And he Miles actually runs a fairly good sized company now. We met when you were tiny, and he specializes in some marketing stuff, great copywriter, helps businesses generate leads in a very different way than we do. He's not like a generate insurance leads kind of guy, but understands the business, understands marketing, understands clients, strategy, building stuff, scaling stuff. And him and I have had some really cool conversations over the years. And I was like, hell, let's get him in the syndicate and hear from someone different. So appreciate you getting on, dude.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I know for insurance, you're the person I would recommend people talk to. So it's a little nerve-wracking to talk to all these insurance people, but we'll see what we can do.
You know what's crazy, dude, is you know this. I do one thing in insurance. In the group, I think Joe, so my buddy Joe Campert runs, and him and Tony Merwin run this thing. And there's about 7,000 agents in here, dude, and overwhelming majority are not, they don't do what I do. So very different lines of insurance, P&C guys, Medicare guys, health people, and ladies when I say guys, because I know there's a few ladies watching us live, probably too. All kinds of lines, man. They speak languages I don't speak. They say stuff I don't understand. But I run in a lot of the same circles with these folks at different events and speaking things. And it's pretty neat, dude, getting to learn about different lines of insurance. So I know what I know, but dude, there's a lot of people that are the equivalent of what I do in their space in this group, so I'm just one dude in the big group trying to help, bro.
Yeah. And you've, since we've known each other, you've got, I don't know, you probably was 6-7 times the size too of when I first met you.
Man, probably at least, dude. It's been, hell, it's probably more, bro. When we start talking, I don't remember what year we started talking. It's been a while.
Yeah. I like 18 or 19, but I'd tell people about you because it's like, this is literally like going to be a movie. It's like Art Williams, like the story of what you guys done FL Agent Force. You think about selling one policy to selling like thousands of policies a month. It's pretty insane.
Yeah. 18, dude. I bet we had, I'm trying to think, in 18, 100 and, I don't know, 150 agents, maybe. Something like that, depending on which time of the year we started talking. You know what I mean? It was under 200, I tell you that, for sure. To now we're at today. And you've helped a lot with that, dude. You've helped us with a lot of marketing stuff. But give them a little background, dude. Let them know what you do, who you are. And, for me, it's always kind of about the journey, because I think all of us are on a very similar journey. We just might do different things. So give them a little background, dude.
So I was born in Connecticut. I recently, John has inspired me over the years to move to warmer weather. So I'm now in Nashville, Tennessee.
As of like last week.
I got tired of high taxes and cold weather, the combo. But I grew up one of 6 kids. I was a baseball player through college. So I played baseball at a pretty high level in like a major league syndicated college prospect league with guys from like Vanderbilt and some of these bigger Southern schools. And then basically got into sales. I worked in tech sales at a company called EMC. Sold data storage systems Michael Dell bought us. There was a ton of bureaucratic red tape. So I did that for a little while, then realized I more wanted to carve my own path. Ended up working for my dad's business. I got a lot of attention for the stuff I was doing for him on LinkedIn. And that has become, now we help about like 110 businesses at any one time. Basically connect with people, deepen those relationships. So that could be either lead generation or recruiting or actually closing deals or converting candidates or keeping people. And one thing that makes us unique is we run the business as kind of explicitly Christian business. So we donate 10% of the profit, and at a minimum, we do a lot of stuff in the community. So that's getting close to, we're not quite there yet, but we're getting, I think we're probably donated over $500,000 to charity so far in the few years we've been doing this, which has been awesome.
That's so sick, dude. Tell them the way you do it, man. Can you share what you want to share? Remember how you like your style of doing what you do.
Yeah. So basically, I study what would work on me. So I think about John and I look at, like, we all get these notifications constantly. So I try to look at what wouldn't I respond to? So if I'm in insurance recruiting and I say, a percentage, like I'll pay you 110% of premium, or it's like 3 paragraphs or a Calendly link or a YouTube, like I wouldn't respond to that cold. Where if someone responded like, are you the John who went to Smith High School? Like I can automate knowing where he went to high school. Like he would be like, this is interesting. Like, yeah, what? It's like, oh, I just know it's a great high school and I have a question about insurance if you have a second. And once I've reeled him in, the whole principle I've learned is you want to get them with a little worm. You don't want to put a stake on the worm. Yeah. But so I've learned these little hacks, like what's already in everybody's mind, whether it's like a presidential election or the weather or Yeti mugs new thing, or like in a city like John's in Atlanta, like the fact that the Braves just won the World Series. And can I essentially hijack those people's attention? They've already paid billions of dollars to get into John's mind and just slide under it by linking my message. So Smith High School or whatever as a generic already has John's attention. Can I use that as a way to create a lower cost channel to getting his attention than trying to go cold with, I'm at ABC Insurance, you should like it? Because there's so many people doing that, right? Yeah. I think if I already can think of something in your mind, I'm going to get in that way. Yeah.
How do you think, knowing what you know about the insurance space, and you've worked with a lot of our agents over the years, how do you think the average agent in here can apply that to what we do? Gaining customers at its core.
Yeah. So I just think you have to start with like, what's everyone doing in your industry? Like they're running these Facebook ads or direct mail. They're these long things. And good is the enemy of great. Like you look at it, like it wouldn't work on us. It works on some percentage of the people in that audience. Yeah. But what I would try to do, like if I was selling insurance every day and I wanted to sell like IULs to wealthy people, I would start a podcast called like Nashville Success, or like the top 1% Nashville. And it'd be like, John, I want to bring you on to talk about how you got in the top 1%. No one's going to say no, whether they're actually in the top 1% or not, because they're going to feel special for being on it. And once I know John, I'd say, I've been doing this. I'd have 100 people on my podcast. And then I'd say, I'm doing this seminar for only top 1% people who've been on the show. Come meet the other people that met our criteria of income or whatever to be on the show. And then I'd do some kind of social gathering where I'd educate people on IULs, because what wouldn't work on me is another person saying, look, like there's this financial instrument you need to use, because I would be skeptical of it like we all would. Yeah, yeah. But if someone lured me in with, oh, I heard your story, and even if there's a criteria, you have to be making $500,000 a year to be on this podcast, that kind of vets, like I would do stuff like that. And then, so that's one side. What's the message? The other side is how do you distribute it? So if I was in that case, I would go neighborhood by neighborhood, and I would use a tool like handwritten.com to write handwritten notes to people at their home address. Amazon Prime, something that's interesting. There's a guy in your guys' industry. I won't name him, but I told John about this. But I think probably in the top 3, biggest brands in your guys' industry. I got a meeting with him. I'm not even in insurance, by mailing an Amazon Prime package to his house.
Yeah.
And so I look, it's like, yeah, he might be a billionaire, but he still gets Amazon Prime packages because his wife is still going like this. So then you just slip one of yours in. And then the application of that is if I'm selling an IUL in Nashville, what if I sent 10,000 Amazon packages a month of $3 bags of Skittles? Because now I'm getting that message. So I'm playing that distribution game just like you guys are with ads to try to decide, is a postcard versus an Amazon Prime package better for $1 per spend? And then I'm trying to figure out what should the message be in, because they're two independent challenges. But yeah, essentially I set, I think every year, like over 10,000, like VP, director, CEO type appointments with automated email, which is one vein. But I do a lot of this other stuff that's just super weird and creative because it actually does work.
Yeah, against the norm. Speaking of like the IUL thing, like you see any of those videos, and I don't know, like, TikTok algorithm, they attack me, dude. And in our space right now, there's a lot of people shifting to push IULs, annuities, you know what I mean, that didn't traditionally. And it drives me a little bit crazy in the sense that, you ever see those videos? I don't know what they call them. What's the video like? If you have a video, I like replay it and I stare at your video and I like nod my head and do like this, whatever those are called.
Yeah.
There's, dude, I see people that have no business selling IULs. There's like 15 videos a day doing this. And I'm like, dude, everyone's doing that now. Cut it out. You know what I mean? It worked 2 years ago. So I always like, because the things you do, man, are like, for me, and you know this, they're like uncomfortable for me because they're different, but dude, they work. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm baffled at the response rates at some of the stuff we do together. And I'm like, there's no way I would have ever thought of that. But I'll let you roll with it. And
it's scary because I think you have to take some risk, because that's what most people I think insurance agents are a little better because they tend to be more scrappy, but in businesses, no one wants to do anything that they think might damage the brand or might, it's not professional enough. And what I've learned is, like, we've gotten Fortune 500 CEOs to respond to our emails that are written like a second grader wrote them.
Really?
We got the CEO of GameStop a couple of years ago to respond to an email. Yeah, because it's different. So it's like, that's what I've learned is, like, they're not going to read something written by McKinsey that's 19 paragraphs long of thoughtful research in a cold email. They're going to respond to, like, if you had a call cancel on Tuesday and I can slot in for 5 minutes, I will personally write 100 letters to the YMCA in your community about how great you are. Something that's like dumb and funny.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what? But then you're reading it and if you're like, what? And so we've seen, like, that type of method is so powerful. And it's not about, like, what is better or worse. It's about what everyone else is doing and doing something different. So if everyone starts using humor, I want to be the guy doing 9 paragraphs.
Yeah.
But if everyone's, and that's, I think, in your guys' industry, one of the things that I think why you see, like, the stratospheric, like 9-figure success that John has had, I think it's, he doesn't think like an insurance person, because the insurance people all buy the same leads. They all use the same marketing companies. They all do. And you try a lot of weird things like the stuff I do. And I think that's where you've had so much success, is anyone who's just doing what everyone else does is kind of guaranteed to only make the income that everyone else makes.
Yeah. And, one of the things, and you kind of mentioned it, is like, you and Ryan, I'm going to put up his question actually. Hey, hold on, Ryan. I'm looking at Joe's. Hey, did you see this? Can you see that on the screen, bro? Did you see that when I posted this? Joe's like, don't send bags of shit to folks. Did you see that I got one this year? I don't know if you saw that post. Someone literally sent me a bag of shit in the mail this year. Yeah. I was like, all right, that's different. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's what I would say, eye-catching, but not what the audience wants. Yeah. So you have to be careful.
Yeah. And Joe said, and it went viral. It was definitely the post. I had more comments, interaction, engagement on that post than any other post I had all year. I'm like, what the hell? Of course. But Ryan's question, and you're really good at this, dude. He's like, how do you get someone making $500K a year on your podcast when you're not making it? But to your point, you're getting CEOs of big companies to respond. And I mean, again, you're doing well, but I bet those CEOs are making a whole lot more jack than you.
Yeah. No, I don't.
What advice would you give him?
Yeah, so I'll give you a great example. I wanted to get into private equity firms because they're upstream, just like Integrity that John's involved in is owned by like Silver Lake, like they like pretty much run the world of mid market business. So I offered to buy these PE people a night at the Ritz Carlton if they would just talk to me. Now, these guys have ridiculous money, like they're selling companies for $180 million like every month.
Yeah.
So like money is no object to them. But the Ritz Carlton, they probably have to stay at a lot. So it's like, I don't know, there's something about it. So I can get their attention as an example, even though I would never stay at the Ritz Carlton myself, based off something they like. And then it's $500. I don't have $50 million, but like I got a bunch of meetings that way. Then they all converted because people weren't going to waste their time, and I had a service and who could help. So the same thing is true with podcast. Like there are lots of people where I'm sitting in Franklin, Tennessee, who make $3 or $4 million a year, who no one knows who they are, whose spouse doesn't, appreciate them enough, who would love to be on a podcast to talk about how great they are, even if that podcast was run by a janitor.
Yeah,
because it's just the podcast play is just appealing to them that you're an interested listener.
Yeah,
and I think it depends on the situation, but like John has a business that's way, way, way bigger than mine. But sometimes just people want to mentor you because they like you or they see themselves in you. Like I don't know, like 10 years younger than John or 14 years younger than John or something like. So there's this idea of like people want to pass the ladder back down. There's all these different reasons why they might be willing to. I just think you can't posture as a peer. So I think what they don't like is the fakeness. If I'm pretending I make $4 million a year, that's different than, hey, I'm just starting out, but I'd love to feature people like you who are making it big. Because I think there's a genuineness that that works better than if I'm pretending to be one of them. And then, they all have Bentleys and I have a Toyota Corolla. And they start to be like, wait a second, you tricked us all along. It's probably a worse outcome.
Yeah. How do you go about finding people like that? I mean, again, if you know someone, you know someone. If they're out there, they're out there. But what you're saying is there's probably a lot of people that maybe aren't so well known. How would you advise, because I know you're a data junkie, but for the average person that doesn't have access to what you have access to, how would you advise someone to start that process? Or do they buy the service? Or, you know what I mean? Like, and I know that ain't what you're here for, is to pitch it. And I don't even know if you do stuff like that externally. But point is, if Ryan's like, all right, I want to do it, what advice would you give him?
Yeah, so I would say like LinkedIn's a great repository. You can use it to like LinkedIn Sales Navigator to see like CEOs in a city with a certain number of employees. Like employees a good proxy for wealth. If I was in insurance, I think you guys get all these reports on distribution, and I mean I see it all the time at FFL. Like they show the premium written by each agent each month, kind of thing. So I would just look at that and be like, "Who are the top 5 people on like Zach Trudowski's board?"
Yeah.
Be like if I wanted to meet insurance people, just reach out and be like, and I'd just be honest. I saw you in the top 5 on Zach's board. You must be doing something right. And it's interesting because like John is a rare case where I've a long-term like client relationship with in insurance, but I don't really do very much in insurance. Like I'm not necessarily here to make more business for Veth Group. It's just fun to meet people. It's fun to talk. It's fun to help each other and like do this with John. Like I think a lot of people are like that. Like, we get kind of bored. So it's like I think we think the bar is like when people go, well, how many listeners does your podcast have? I always just say, sadly, we haven't had Gary Vee or Richard Branson on it yet. So if either of those guys are asking you to be on their show, just do that instead.
Yep.
It disarms people because they're like, okay, like I get it. You're trying. Like, yeah.
What your sales obviously background mixed with what you know about insurance, dude. What advice can you give people on the sales? Because again, revenue, you're all doing some revenue, dude. With 5 million this year, something like that. Is that what you're gonna hit
like
for?
3.5, yeah, three and a half.
I round up, dude. Yeah. 3.5, 5.
Yeah, you're a monster.
Rounding to the nearest 5.
I don't know if it's all public what you do, but I know like the numbers that I hear from you are just insane. You're like 50 times.
We made a few grand last year. I mean,
it's crazy. Yeah. And it's just snowballs. You're like, I'm in Florida, and now it's like twice the size since when I came back, and you're like, it's your story for anyone on the call. It's like I would follow everything you were doing because I've never heard of someone who in such a short amount of time built something that is so self-sustaining.
Yeah.
That is the difference between you and I. I personally make every single penny. You're not you've gotten a lot of other people that be successful along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you let's talk about that. Because if you stop, essentially your business stops, right? You're kind of in that a little bit.
Yeah, I have 15 people, but I'm the creative mind, so I think it would be hard for it to work right now without me.
Yeah. What's your goal there? Like, how do you? Are you okay with that? Are you trying to get to it? And again, you and I have had these conversations, but I just want you to share your thought process with people on long term what that's like, or what you're trying to get to.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, what I've learned from John is John reinvested every penny. I think what you have to find the balance of is where people get stuck, and me included, is I think you get comfortable at a certain level. Because when you start, you're trying to reach subsistence. Like, I don't want to work for the man. They don't pay me enough money. Like in John's case, I want to buy my kids Christmas presents. Like I had been newly married. Like everyone has these stories. Like I see that, I went to the Apple store and I couldn't afford this and I wanted or whatever. And then over time you reach this level. And I've found for me, I think you reach it at a much earlier point than people realize. I think the jump from like $50,000 to like $100,000 is a massive jump in lifestyle.
Yeah.
Now, like your apartment doesn't smell bad, and you have a car that actually has working headlights. And then if you go from like 100 to, and I have a lot of clients, so I see all different income levels. I think when you go to like 100 to 200, it's like when you're going to the Dierks Bentley concert or you want to go out to eat, like you kind of can do whatever you want at like 200. Then you go to like 400 and it's like your wife has a nicer house. Then you're at like 600 and it's like you can have a couple cars. Then you get up to like $1 million, then you're starting to then all of a sudden the game, everyone I've met that reaches these levels, and I think John, you could attest, suddenly just becomes a game of how to make more money on the money you have because you no longer can spend it.
Yeah.
Because at some point it's like I was telling my wife, it's like, so we were in Nashville last night, Carrie Underwood, like Brad Paisley and all these people were playing a concert. And for $200, we were 3 rows back from Brad Paisley. So like I have a picture from last night. Like that is Brad Paisley on my phone, like right next to me. Yeah. And it's like you can't get any closer. It only costs $200. And so what I've noticed is for me as a Christian, I've never been in it for the money. We've gotten really aggressive about generosity. Like we donated 10% of our revenue or something close to 10% of our just our revenue last year. So every penny we made, 10% of it was getting donated. That has been what's sustained me. And I think made me want to keep following like the path John has followed, because I think what happens if you get complacent is it's hard to delegate like John has. And he had to give up a lot in short-term income in order to build what he's built. Because if he stopped at making $200,000, and he's got an incredibly supportive wife and Steph, like if he stopped, then I don't think he would ever have what he has now, because it's like he was buying leads at like $90,000 a month instead of buying lake houses. Yeah. I know that you were all the way through. So what I've learned from you, I have 15 employees. So I have a great team, but I'm like the creative juices. I have to basically make that decision like you made of I'm going to play for tomorrow and not today. Mm-hmm. And including with things like generosity, you have to be careful, because if you're donating 10% of your revenue and not reinvesting it back in the business, you're kind of choosing to be generous today instead of potentially more generosity tomorrow. And I'm not suggesting that's right or wrong. I really try to follow what I feel like God asks me to do every day. I don't, if there's a case where it's like, I need to meet this need now, I'm less concerned about the future. But I think if you look at like John's trajectory, you can't get to where he got without foregoing the short term, which is incredible discipline given the fact that he started because he wanted to buy his kids Christmas presents. Yeah. So the temptation all along the way would be to say, you know what? I could make $1 million a year and that's enough. I'm just going to, and you, to your credit, didn't do that.
Yep, no doubt. I appreciate it, dude. So I'm going to put up Joe. They want to know more about LinkedIn, dude. Joe kind of asked too. Here's the initial. If you can basically break down your LinkedIn strategy more, and then on conversions, and then his follow up is when you get a response from whoever, how do you go about what's your suggestion on scheduling and next steps?
Yeah,
and that's
so
where we started, dude.
my,
To be clear, didn't we start with LinkedIn? Isn't that where you started helping me back in the day? That was our first piece of business,
yeah,
wasn't it? That's what I thought.
yeah, and we had a lot of success. We had like 20-year people all like yeah, I think we were going after like Primerica and some of those. Yeah. So my thought, Joe, is the reason it's not converting is probably not that people aren't seeing it. It's probably that your message is too much about you. So if I reach out to a mortgage or realtor, like mortgage broker, realtor person, and say, we should network, they're doing that to you. You wouldn't respond if someone said that because what I hear is, John, you've got hundreds of millions of dollars of insurance flowing. I'd love to sell some mortgages on the back of that. You should let me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work. What I would say to John, if I really wanted to get him, I'd be like, John, I have 17 leads, because John's still scrappy. Just because he's successful doesn't mean he's forgotten day one. I have 17 leads that told me they want term life insurance. Who do I send them to on your team? I can go buy those for $1 a piece, like you guys all know how to do. I would come with a gift in hand, even if it's that simple. Like I would go on Zillow and buy a bunch of leads and then go to realtors and be like, I have a few people that I in San Antonio looking for houses. Do you sell houses, Bob? It looked like you sell houses. Are you the house guy? Because because we can't resist that as people that know how hard it was to get there in the beginning. Like one of the things I've learned with, I get like a lot of, like all of us, but as I built a LinkedIn brand, like I get like about 100 emails a day and like a lot of text messages, a lot of times from people who want something, like just like anything. It's and it's interesting because what I've noticed is I can never refuse the ones that feel like there's a lead in them.
Yeah.
Because there's something about us that we know how precious leads are. And so I think that's what I would say is in terms of pushing for a Zoom call or not, I think that's just entirely contextual to each thread. But I think the idea of I can't go to John. John has a lot of leverage. If I go to John and say, John, your insurance agents really need the L&D software that I have. He just feels like I'm taking advantage of it. If I go, John, I have these 6 people that seem to want to switch from Primerica to FFL. Do you like those types of people?
Yep.
Now, and so my point is, in the world you guys are in, and what makes John like as good as anyone in life insurance, he's the best I've ever seen at generating leads. And because if he has like, in one of the things, like I can say as a lead gen vendor, like John is incredibly collaborative and encouraging. Like we don't try as hard when people are bullies. We just find new customers. Like, so John's like patient, kind, like all that stuff that seems like it wouldn't matter and is not really prioritized in your guys' industry, really matters. Because it's a complete, like we price differently for people like John than we do for people like you name it in your industry. Like he pays like a fourth less, or he pays a fourth of what we would charge someone we didn't like. So everyone thinks it's all like same numbers. It's just like, because there's a headache of I don't want my employee to have to deal with. So my point though is John knows how to get leads. Those become currency when he wants to meet a real estate person or even another insurance agent. Hey, I saw you're at Primerica. Like, do you guys sell life insurance? Like we do too at FFL, but this didn't feel like the right case for us. I'd love to give you the lead. Once he does that, is that person really not going to respond when he says, let's meet for coffee next week? Yeah. Like much more likely they will, but it only costed him $1 to buy that one lead.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It doesn't have to be, like a crazy investment, just a little bit.
And then follow up, do you see any difference in the type of appointment to book next? Is there any strategy there, or one better than the other, or what do you think?
Yeah, I would just say try to defend against the worst view of what they could be thinking about you. So no one wants to be pushed to like a Zoom call prematurely. So I actually, whenever I ask for something, I always reverse. So I always give someone an out, or I give someone the alternative of what I want them to do. So if I want a customer to book a time with me, I say, John, I realize you probably don't like these Zoom calls. It's totally fine if you don't want to, but would you want to book with me on Zoom? Or if I say, John,
Yeah.
I realize you probably don't want to talk to yet another insurance person, but like, do you open up calendar slots even because I'm trying to diffuse the tension that naturally exists in selling. Because if I don't give him an out and he feels pressured, I'm going to push him away. And so when I have a prospect that comes on the phone with me, if they're aggressive, like lead gen companies are all terrible, I say, most of them are. And then I'm just silent.
Yeah.
And they go, well, it sounds like, yours isn't as bad. It's like, well, you don't know, John. Like, you just got on the phone. I could be just as bad. And now they're laughing. But if I took the other stance and they go, most of them are bad, I go, no, they're not. I'm not bad. I'm really good. I'm like, then I lose because I need to work in the direction they're going. So I give them a more extreme version of what they're saying. So I take the extreme of I don't want to book with this guy and take it to an extreme. John, I realize you might never book a call with a life insurance person with how many want to talk to you. I'm silent because he's like, well, no, I mean, I might do it once in a while. It's like, no, I mean, John, I realize you're too busy. He's like, no, I'm not too busy. I'm trying to get him to be the one coming to me instead of if I'm trying to push him into what I want to do, it doesn't work. I have to kind of gradually lead him, if that makes sense. That's a Sandler sales thing called reversing. And same thing I'm sure is true when you're actually selling policies.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I love it. Ryan.
Yeah, John sold like 19 million policies. So yeah, I can see him laughing.
I didn't sell hardly any of them. I've sold very little of them relative to, but yeah. I get your point. I push product, dude. I'm pretty good at that. Mm-hmm. Ryan, I'd love to generate $1 life leads. Hey, entirely possible, bro. But they ain't gonna have filled it out 14 seconds ago and call you with a check in hand necessarily. You know what I mean? But they exist, dude. And like what I love about stuff like that, bro, is like some people go like, and I'm sure we can apply this to different industries or concepts or whatever. And I'd love your input on this. But like, and not saying this is you, Ryan, but a lot of people go dollar leads, got it. And maybe we implied here dollar, I filled it out 4 minutes ago leads. And because it was 4 minutes ago makes it better. Dude, I'd argue a dollar lead older is better in a lot of ways, especially when someone who sucks paid full price and didn't know how to work it appropriately. I'll take that all day long. You know what I'm saying? And go like, is there a little more time involved to get through those? Obviously. But the ROI on them, if you're willing to go at them the right way and have the willingness to work through them, bro, is meaning a brand new mortgage lead, dude, in today's world, $80, $100. I mean, it could be what direct mail, it can be. So I go, dude, that dollar one, maybe I can't book as many in a short window, but there's no way that a new one is 80 times better. There's no way. You know what I'm saying? So then it becomes, let's teach the appropriate mindset strategy to go after those. And how do we get people looking at things in the appropriate way so their negative connotation of something doesn't get in the way and prevent them from making that ROI that's really there, and that's something I think we got really good at to get the volume and the production we get. Dude, I can get people excited about a dollar 2-year-old lead in a second, and projecting what I need to project on them. So, and these are conversations you and I have driving down the road for 47 minutes. Sometimes there's like these crazy, like, what do we think? What's your thoughts on that, dude?
Yeah. Well, no, I wanted to share, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to share something that, so John's working on writing a book. And I think that one of the things that I've learned from John, because when you see someone hit a revenue of over $100 million, it is a completely different vector of success. Like I've learned just success is just completely linear. So lots of people make $100,000 as a business, fewer make $1 million. But when you reach that level, you're talking about like a 1 in 10,000 type outcome or something. It's very, very rare. So you have to there's something that the person's doing that's so far from luck that it's not luck, because luck can get you to like $200,000. It can't get you to 100 million. So I really admire what John's done. So I try to understand like what's his secret, because I think we all have like a thing. Like my thing of sorts is like I run the business like off of the Bible every day. Like now, I don't whether that makes the most money. I don't really care. But like if that was the thing, like I'm like what's John's really good at? I would say he defaults to action when everyone else defaults to thinking, and he has all these hacks he learned, like triple dialing leads. Mm-hmm. So he taught me this a while ago. It's like you just call their phone 3 times. Some people complain, but a lot don't. And it's just like, hey, I really need to talk to you. I called you 3 times. How he talks about buying leads. I have a cousin that's a big real estate guy now, but he made his first $1 million in insurance and then sold it. That he was only buying old leads and then working the list because they were cheaper. Yeah. And like you said, and he made about $1 million, and then now he's like ridiculously successful in real estate. But what I learned from John is like whether it's the triple dials or how you buy the leads or how you take the meetings, John, you'd look at him and go, he's just really, really smart because he's figuring out all these little hacks. And I don't think it's that John is smarter than the other 7,000 people that don't maybe have the same size of agency. I think what it is that John is willing to work and just pays even like remotely close attention to what's happening because he wanted it bad enough that he was willing to triple dial. He wanted it bad enough that he figured out the leads. And it's like, I mean, not that John isn't smart. Lots of people are smart. It's just lots of smart people never do enough of the work. That is like lots of people are arguing about whether to go into life or PNC, and the grass is always greener. So anyone in PNC thinks life is better. Anyone in life thinks mortgages is better. The mortgage people think the insurance people have it easier. Like the real estate agents think like, and it's so funny because like if you're at that level, like if John, I think John could have one of the best real estate agencies in the country because it's not actually about like, it's way too high level. Like there's people like Ryan Serhant making like $25 million a year in real estate. There's people who make nothing in real estate. Yeah. There's people like Patrick Bet David that catapulted their career selling life insurance. There's people who never sell a single policy. So it's not I think we get way too enamored by the high level strategy. I think from John, what I've learned is like, he just picks a direction and he's so darn good at these nuances of like, I figured out how to automate ZipRecruiter with a text messaging platform so that and that is where he's making all the big successes, these tiny little things where if you weren't doing it every day, like I think he used to tell his wife, like on Thursdays, don't talk to me because that's my dial day or something. It's like the burn the boats idea. It's like, that's where we get in trouble and I had the same experience. So when I started, I was dialing a phone 690 times a day at the maximum. Mm-hmm. And it's big because I was a phone dialing company. And then I realized like, this isn't working. I'm going to do email, but it wasn't like I had a crystal ball where I could have told you that until I did the 690 dials a day. And I think that, I mean, I don't know what you think about that, but that's what I've learned from you.
Yeah, I love it, dude. I think that you're spot on with the strategy. And Joe's like, if the book isn't titled Do More, then I'm not. I love you, bro. You're probably in the ballpark. I mean, that's what I do. Yeah. That's who I am, and it works out. Hey, I don't know if this is for Miles, but what's your favorite candy, bro? Miles.
For me,
Joe asked, and I'm assuming he's asking about you.
So I like Sour Patch Kids, but my mom thinks that they're poisonous, so I kind of stay away from them now. Right. My mom was giving me a hard time. You might get a dump truck full of them here in a minute. Yeah. What about you, John?
My favorite candy, dude. Oh, good question. Mine would be like, I like chocolate and peanut butter stuff. Like, I'm not like a massive candy guy. But I do like chocolate peanut. So if I probably Reese's, to be honest, if I had to pick, dude, it'd be ice cream. I don't know if that counts as candy, but I would pick ice cream all day long. And I would put like peanut butter, chocolate chip, like Reese's cups. Get me to what's that place called? Maddox and I go all the time, where they like take the ice cream and they put Reese's cups and chocolate syrup and peanut butter in it, and they mix it all together.
Stone, yeah.
Yes, Cold Stone. Yeah, dude, me and him go there. I'll wear out some ice cream, boy. Yeah. Ice cream with candy.
Well, and the funny thing too, something else I laugh about is right before I got married, I know I was like, you look at this 75 hard thing, and you got super into it, and I have not got super into it. I like that's what I realized about you is like when you get into it. So you even talking about ice cream is funny because I know like, but that's the difference, and what you learn is that I think like John. So I look at me, it's like I had 8 months a couple of years ago where the business went from $1 million to $3 million like that. But then it's like it kind of levels out. So for the last couple of years, I've kind of been. What I've noticed about John is it's like that 75 hard thing is like if you can get yourself to keep pushing, the compound returns, just like an IUL, are so crazy high. But a lot of times, the people you're competing with are not as formidable as you think because they're not always on. They plateau, they get lazy, they reach a certain level, but they're not still fighting. And I think for all of us, you have to fight against that complacency because, like, I'm 6'4", 180 pounds. Like I'm not. I don't have like some like. I don't have to lose. Like I don't. I'm skin and bones. I don't have weight to lose. It's easy to just be like, oh, do I really need to do 75 hard? It would be good, but like, there's lots of things that would be good, and that's dangerous thinking because that complacency is the same thing that's true we talked about with income. So I think something else I just learned from you is like, I guess I'd ask you for the audience, like, how do you stay so motivated? Because I mean, it'd be so easy to say, I've already been successful. I already have a good body. I already have a good marriage. Like, well, how do you keep pushing?
Hey, do you remember when I told you no to 75 hard? I'm like, nah, dude, I ain't ready for that. Do you remember that?
No,
you wanted to do it first. That's right. Yeah. And then like a week later, what? Tell them a week later what?
A week later, you're doing it. And I was like, well, John, like, it's cold in Chicago and I'm going to Hawaii. And I don't know. This is a good idea. And then he's like, on day 90. And he's like, are you doing it? I'm like, well, John, like, it's kind of busy for work. And then he's like, are you doing it? It's like, well, now I'm having a baby. Like, are you doing it? It's like, well, I'm having So John has completely put me to shame on 75 hard.
Yeah. I felt like shit when I told you no. And then like a week later, I'm like, mother effer. I just punked out. I'm doing it. And then I've tried to guilt you into doing it for 3 years and it's all right. One day, bro. One day.
We'll work on it. Yeah.
How do I
maybe
stay
when the metabolism
motivated?
slows down? Yeah.
I mean, try to not wait till you're fat like I was. That's when I start. I'm like, I got to get out of this hole. I waited too long. I would say, dude, what keeps me motivated is I'm scared. I'm scared. Like, why do I keep working out every day and eat really well? I'm scared to be out of shape and have high blood pressure and high cholesterol and have a heart attack and die. You know what I mean? I'm scared, dude. Why do I keep pushing? I'm scared to lose my business. You know what I'm saying? I'm scared to go back to where I came from. I'm just, that's what motivates me, dude. I enjoy doing things that I enjoy being the guy that does things that most people aren't willing to do. I like that role. I like being that person. I like being a leader, if you will, or kind of not the norm. I'm okay with that role. But dude, at its core, man, it's more about, I'm afraid, man. I don't want to ever go back to where I came from, bro. Secondary to that, which maybe sounds mean, I don't know, but it is secondary. I would say probably after that, and second's probably a good thing. I really want to help other people win, dude. And I feel like by me continuing to push, it makes others go like, dang, if he can keep doing it, I can do it. Or if he can get this, I can do it. Again, as you know, if me and you took an SAT together right now, bro, you'd probably triple me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just a guy that keeps going, dude. And I feel like I'm relatable to people and I want to give people the feeling that they can do stuff too. So I just keep pushing, man. I want to help people win. I want to see other people change their kids' lives. It's a lot about the kids for me than it is honestly the adult. And I had a lot of help getting where I'm at, man. And I think it's just my turn to hold that baton, and I want to hold it as long as I can because I know one day it ain't going to be me. You know what I'm saying? It's like this thing's going to come to an end one day. So I told Savannah run with it as long as I can.
Yeah, no, I told Savannah last night. It's like we've already been at it 5 years. It's like we're 10% of the way through it.
Yeah,
the business, like it's just not that long. And you had a story, like you were so hungry before you were successful. You got on a plane just to meet Mike Killamet.
Killamet was local to me, but I used to get on a plane to get around Mike Killamet while he was traveling to see other successful people. So I called the story you're probably talking about. This is early, dude. I was part-time. I was still doing my accounting job. I was very new to the business. And like I do today, travel to go to different events and teach and train and speak in front of others, whatever. That was his role when I got here. And I knew that in those events, there's a lot of people that are successful. Like, I wasn't confused by that. I also knew when he's at those events, there's a lot of people who want his attention. Right. So I called his admin dude and I'm like, hey, and I think he was going to it was somewhere up north, whether it might have been like Philly or something like that. And he was going to an event and it was like a 3-day. It was like Philly, Nashville, Orlando or something like that. Three events, 3 days. And I'm like, and he was flying alone, him and his brother-in-law. And I was like, so I called his admin and I'm like, yo, when's Mike flying and what seat is he in? So I found out what time his flight was and what seat he was in, and him and his brother-in-law were booked. And this was old school, like where there wasn't a ton of money. So they were in row like 37 on a relatively empty flight. And they had booked 37A and C. You mean window aisle. So I called his admin and I'm like, where's he sitting? And they told me he was here, Brent was here. So I booked 37B. And I literally sat between them on an empty flight. Looking back, it was really awkward and uncomfortable, but I'm like, dude, I got a significant amount of time with someone who was really successful. And it was looked at as kind of like weird and crazy, which they liked. You know what I'm saying? And then it was, dude, I got to travel to these meetings for 3 days and be around really successful people. And a lot of those guys are my buddies today, and it was just me doing out of the ordinary things that no one else. And I always found it weird when he traveled, no one went with him. So that I have that story 20 times over where he'd go to events, whether it was that was at a distance, but local ones, if he was driving to Birmingham or Nashville or whatever, South Carolina to do a meeting, I'm like, yo, can I drive with you? He'd be like, yeah. And so I'd get in the car and I'd damn drive with him, and no one else was doing it. So I got a lot of one-on-one time, and again, I was doing the work. So I think if you're not doing the work, someone would be like, nah, that's weird. You shouldn't. So I think the combination kind of gave me an in. That nobody else took. So,
and that hunger, I think, is just, I've sent 10 people to you that have been in situations like I can't provide for my family. And I say, this is the guy to talk to. And as far as I know, none of the 10 have ever sold a policy at FFL. And I think that's what I've noticed is you can tell them exactly how to do it. You have done it. And it's just, and you tell people, this is not about like throw out. I don't know if I have any books in here, but throw out the books, throw out the master classes, just find someone like you, get on their team, ask them what to do, and just start doing twice the activity. It's so simple of advice. It sounds too good to be true, but your story, I mean, you have, it is not easy to sell life insurance in America. I'm sure there would have been easier ways to make the money you've made. And regardless, you muscled it out. And it's the most inspiring thing to me because it's just a reminder. It's like America, regardless of all its issues, really is still about how bad you want it. If you want it bad enough to have the awkwardness of pushing through that flight, no one can take it from you. Yeah. And I know as much as there's all these discussions about, racism and sexism and this and that, it's like, I understand that there's ways we need to change and reform our country, like any country, but there are people of every single gender, every single skin color, every single whatever that are wildly successful. So the ceiling, even if it's not completely as fair as it should be, is far from iron. Just because of people like you, it might be a harder path, but path is climbable, and I've seen that in your life. You've done it against all odds. You didn't have you didn't have a Harvard diploma. You didn't have a bunch of mentors or a bunch of trust funds, and that's amazing. And I think it's proof to the fact that if you really put your mind to something, you can do it. And I think in our country, it's easy to look for excuses as to why you can't. And the reality is, lots of people with whatever you're saying is your disadvantage did do it.
Yeah. True.
So it's like you did do it. So you don't have the starting point. It's like, well, someone else did. I think we need a little more of that message. Yeah.
I love it, dude. Well, let's end with it. Well, I'm gonna end, first of all, where do people follow you if they want to? And then I got one final question.
LinkedIn's probably the easiest. My cell phone is just I'll just say it here. If someone listens, it's just 203-641-3940. I do respond to every single text message if I can be helpful or answer a question. Or my dad told me years ago I was crazy, but sometimes it takes a long time. But if anyone hears that and wants to like have me look at your copy or have a question, or even if you have like a personal need or like family tragedy or things, we actually a lot of what our business does is help people through those tough circumstances, and I'd be happy to talk.
I love it, dude. End with this. It is Tactical Thursdays. I always go, can you give them some advice on something? I always go, can you give them something we can get off this call and they can implement right now to improve their business? Anything that comes to mind, dude.
And John did not pay me to say this, but I would really say, like, if you were in insurance, I would follow as much of his stuff as I could. I would go to Atlanta. I would do the flight thing. Like, I have worked for 25 people in insurance, and I've never met someone that is as kind or as successful as he is. And tactically speaking, in a life perspective, I would tell you, I'd love to talk to you about how Jesus has changed my life, because that would be my biggest advice. Not to Jesus has changed my life more than John Whitmore, although John Whitmore has changed my life. But I would say in insurance, I would for sure say I would just follow as much of his stuff. Like, he does different events, like married couples things. He does, I know, speaks a lot, travels a lot. Like, I just, if I was in your industry, I would try to become best friends with him, because if I ever wanted to get into your industry, I mean, the amount that I've learned from him, even just in conceptually talking, has blown my mind at how willing he is to share. And I don't think enough of the people that come to things like this realize how much he's willing to help. And, he gets it. So he didn't pay me to say that, just to be clear. That would be my tactical advice.
Always making me uncomfortable, bro. I love it, though. I appreciate you, my man. Thanks for getting on. Y'all have a killer day. If we can help at all, don't be afraid to reach out, and we'll see you next week. See you guys.
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you, bro. All right, man. Later.